That is a look at what's happening around the world.
Let's turn back to the situation with Hurricane Ivan. And as the satellite map shows, Hurricane Ivan has now left the Caribbean Sea and is now moved into the Gulf of Mexico, where it is menacing up the Florida west coast and is expected to make landfall somewhere either around Louisiana or the Florida Panhandle, bringing with it vast amounts of rain and flooding and very strong winds. Of course, it is the latest hurricane to have hit during this season. We've already had Francis and Charlie. Well, today, the British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, will make a key address on the environment, and at the top of the agenda will be global warming. Let's talk more about what the British Prime Minister is likely to say and whether his speech has been given new ferocity by the events of this extreme weather. I'm joined by Dr Paul Toyne, the director of Article 13, an organisation which works with private sector and public companies in an effort to handle issues like the environment and work practices. Dr Toyne, the extreme weather we are seeing at the moment, it does appear to be getting worse. The British Prime Minister will have grist to his mill.
Absolutely. This is what we feared. Several years ago, it was forecast that what we'd have in terms of global warming would be more extreme weather conditions. And that's exactly what we've got. And that's hurricanes, as you just pointed out. We've had 3 hurricanes, or the third's just about to hit America. Even this year, we've had the first ever recorded hurricane in the South Atlantic, just off the coast of Brazil. But
the British Prime Minister is obviously going to say we are seeing the evidence of this, we must do more. But they've been saying this for decades. The Kyoto Accord has not been ratified by the United States. We've had numerous climate conferences of the United Nations, none of which have borne fruit.
Well, we have made some progress, and I say we, I'm talking about society in general. I'm not accountable for that, but there's more that needs to be done. And I think the issue here is that there needs to be some political leadership, and Tony Blair is going to take on that mantle. There needs to be the US to ratify, and the reason why the US needs to ratify, it makes it legally binding, and that's really important, because at this particular stage, it's not just about it's going to happen, it is happening, and people are dying. We had 20,000 deaths in Europe alone last year.
Does it come down to money? Does it come down to trying to convince public sector and even the private sector to invest in sustainable development, to try to ensure that such global warming will not increase in terms of into the future, where it's such, I guess, a bad weather, if you call it, hurricanes, and it just wouldn't continue?
Put it this way: to make matters better, we need a step change, a big change in the way that we look at this issue. That will cost money. And what can't happen in terms of competitiveness, a country on its own, like the UK, cannot change the course of what's happening in this world. It needs everybody to be moving at the same speed, at the same time, and in the right direction.
Why am I highly sceptical, though, by Tony Blair's speech, that it sounds like good politics, but bad in terms of anything actually being done? He's riding a hobby horse here.
I don't think it's a hobby horse. I think it's a nice topic. It's a friendly topic. People like talking about the environment. It could be a vote winner. And I think, actually, when we see the push in terms of the elections over in America, I think you'll see the 2 candidates starting to realise that people are concerned about this. Because despite the fact that America has not ratified the Kyoto Protocol, there's been tremendous changes that have happened at the state level. For example, in New York State, in Illinois and New Hampshire, whatever, where there has been a capping on carbon dioxide emissions from power stations, for example.
What more evidence do governments need then?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there needs to be any more evidence. In the last 14 years, we've had the 10 hottest years on record. Now, the time is for action. We need to improve our energy efficiency. We need to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions. We need to tackle the big issue of transport.
All right, as we just come in a word, because we're out of time, we've got to go to the weather and find out what's happening. Can we say that this year's dreadful hurricane season is as a result of global warming and climate changes?
Yes, I think it's a part of the extreme weather patterns that we're experiencing and we have done in the last few years.
Dr. Toyne, many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you.